great book for learning about character. So who do you guys think is the main character in this book? Charles, what do you think?
Like, it was this girl, but I
What's
forgot
her name?
Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel.
Rachel. Okay, why do we think that Rachel is the main character? Jada?
She's been talked about in mostly every chapter.
Okay. She's been talked about in mostly every chapter. What else makes you think that Rachel is the main character in this book? Nathan?
Well, this is kind of adding on to Jada's that she's kind of in every chapter that is introducing another character.
The other, say that one more time.
She's in every chapter that's not like introducing another
Okay.
character that's going to be like one of the few things.
Okay, I like how you built on to what Jada said. That shows you were listening to her. Very important. Nina?
The first situation in the story was about Rachel.
She was the first character we met. Okay, so the author's giving us like lots of clues that Rachel is probably the main character. What were you going to say, Ty?
I think like Sabbath, like she's not the only main character. I think the other characters sort of like important to the story. Like in one of my books, when you first start out, you start out with what most people would think is the main character, but more in the book, it actually his son gets to be the main character. So I'm thinking that probably like everyone is the main character in the book.
Okay, well that's actually connects really closely to what I was about to talk about today. So we do kind of have a main character in Rachel, but we have all these other people that are becoming pretty important as well. So we don't want to like forget about all these other people and only concentrate on Rachel. Sometimes when you're reading like 2nd and 3rd grade level books, the author really wants you to zoom in and pay attention to only one character. But as you get into more complex books, and I think this book is actually a 5th or 6th grade level book, the author is going to need you to pay attention to more than just the main character. And we call those other people in the book who are important to the story, but not the main character, we call them secondary characters. And so it's really important to pay attention to the secondary characters, their actions and their motivations as well, not just the main characters. So why do you think it's important to pay attention to those secondary characters? Paul?
Because later in the book, it's most likely that they're going to come up again, and it's something like maybe important might happen.
Okay, so they might not seem as important in the beginning, but later on they get more important. Okay? Did everybody hear what Paul said? That's good insight. Who can repeat what Paul said or paraphrase? Who was listening carefully? Jeremy, you're right by him. Did you hear what he said? What did he say?
He said that the secondary characters might be important because they will probably later in the story become a big part.
Okay, and that does kind of connect to what, I liked how you were looking at my chart up there. I did make this for you to kind of scaffold you since secondary characters is something I believe new we're talking about today. That kind of connects to one of the things I wrote up there. Other ideas about why we need to pay attention to secondary characters. We can't just focus on the main character all the time. What do you think, Charles?
They might do something important. They might like their action might show up in the end and
Okay, yeah, kind of like along the lines of what Paul was saying and what I have up here. Secondary characters might be important near the end. How might they be important? What might they do? You can read this one to help you think about it. Ty?
If someone has a really big problem that they can't complete without anyone else, one of the secondary characters can come in and help them.
Right. Very insightful. What did he say? Malcolm, did you hear? Can you ask him to repeat if you didn't hear him?
Yeah,
A secondary character may help the main character might have a problem that he or she cannot finish. So a secondary character could come in and help them complete what they need to do.
Go ahead.
I think I can connect to that one you said.
Okay.
Missy helps Rachel a lot, like when they were when they had that connections class. Rachel wanted to share it, but she doesn't talk, so Missy read it out loud.
Okay. So a secondary character can help the main character with a what? Problem. Solving a problem. Okay. Other reasons why you should pay attention to secondary characters. Think about this book. As I was reading, first I didn't really get Rachel because, like, why are you not talking? I don't understand. But she wasn't the only person that the author talked about. So as I was reading, I was starting to get into some of the other characters and found that I have a little more in common with some of those other characters. Did any of you have that experience? Or maybe you just didn't find one character as interesting, but you found another one interesting. Laura?
Yeah, basically, if you have one character that was interesting, but you also have another one.
Mm-hmm.
I found Rachel and Bastion and
Did you guys hear what she said?
No.
She was talking about how Bastion, who's not the main character, but the whole situation with him and his puppy dog, she found that interesting. Jada?
Yeah, because his dog had to get quarantined for 4 months. And his dog might have disease, but when they had you, it's coming to her lungs.
Yeah, and so I have a dog, and I was thinking how hard it would be if I was in that situation. And so I was actually able to connect to Bastion really well. So sometimes readers can connect on a personal level better to certain secondary characters. Sometimes they can even connect better than they do to the main character. Okay? And a third reason why we want to pay attention to secondary characters is because they offer different perspectives and opinions on the same situation. So for example, in this story, Jessica has a different opinion about what they should be doing than pretty much all the other characters. And that's important to know that not everybody's going to agree all the time. So by learning about all these secondary characters, it might change our own opinions of what's going on and our thoughts about what should or shouldn't happen. Okay, so 3 reasons why it's really important to consider secondary characters. Now, as I was reading, there were so many characters in this book that I found I needed to make a list. So I listed most, not all, but most of the characters who seem somewhat important. So of course we have Rachel, and then we have Sean, who was the boy whose dad was drinking a lot. And we have Bastion, who's the boy who's moving away. We have Jessica, the skinny girl.
Yeah,
Her younger sister, and then her dad yelled at her. That was kind of weird. I put Mrs. Muchmore on there, but then I crossed her off because she only came up that one time where she forgot where she was sick and she called in. So I don't know, maybe she'll come up again, but I don't know.
Her phone message went under.
Yeah. Mr. Fabiano, well, he's so important. Even though it doesn't talk a lot about him, the kids talk a lot about him, right? Even though the author doesn't say much, he doesn't have his own chapter or anything, he's pretty important. Because they're always going back to, what would Mr. Fabiano say? Mr. Fabiano this, and Mr. Fabiano that. And then we also had some other characters, Jasmine, Missy, Christopher, Robert, and Sky. And I figured they were kind of more important because at some point their writing was revealed to you, like during flash drafts or during writing time. There were other characters in the story, Tim, for example, that they were there, but I just didn't feel like they were as important as these kids whose writing was shared and these other ones who had whole chapters about themselves. So let's really try to think about these secondary characters today as we're reading. And if you're having trouble keeping track of all the characters and thinking about all the secondary characters, which might be hard, I'm going to ask you to just pick one and zoom in on that one character as we read today. See what you hear about him or her. But if you can keep track of more than one, that's great too. So, Ms. McLaughlin, you said you left off with 69, which I believe is the end of the chapter. So we're starting out on page 70. This chapter is titled Lunch. It's 12:10 p.m. Now I need all eyes this way while I'm reading. Hey, we better go, Vicky said. Yeah, but the whole 6th grade will be in the cafeteria, Tim pointed out. How are we going to keep the teachers from finding out? They'll find out, Jessica predicted. People will talk. Yeah, you, for instance, Bastion muttered. Everybody, for instance, Jessica retorted. You think Robert and Corey aren't going to tell Josh? The kids all looked at Robert and Corey. The two triplets sat with their brother Josh every day at lunch. We're innocent, Robert said, throwing up his arms. Yeah, Corey said, we didn't do it. We demand to see a lawyer. Listen, guys, Karen said, we're only trying to do this for one day, right? 6 hours. And we're close. It'd be a shame to get caught now. I say we keep it a class secret, Jasmine said. I'm not telling anyone, even if they torture me. It won't work, Sky said quietly. A story like this is contagious. Bastion flinched at the word contagious. Quarantine. He's right, Karen said. Morgan already knows. You really think he can keep quiet about this? No way. And other kids will find out too, I say. I say we tell the other 6th graders after we swear them to secrecy. We've got to make them swear they won't tell any teachers until school is over. It's worth a try, Jasmine said. 3 o'clock, that's all we're asking. It's less than 3 hours away. Fact, Christopher said. Never worked, Tim said. There are about a gazillion teachers' pets in the 6th grade, maybe more. Rachel started scribbling a note. Wait a sec, Missy said. Rachel's got something. Ah, Bastion muttered. The silent pilot speaks. Again. This is your last day, Rhonda told him. Just pretend for one day that you're a nice person. My dog thinks I'm nice, Bastion thought. He smirked at Rhonda. So something I'm noticing about Bastion is he thinks a lot about his puppy dog, yeah. And I'm kind of conflicted about what I think of Bastion as a person because most of the time to the other kids he kind of acts like a jerk. But then he loves his dog so much and he's really caring when it comes to the dog. So yeah, I'm conflicted about what kind of person he is. Missy took the paper from Rachel and read aloud. Maybe the other 6th graders won't tell any teachers if we make them feel included, if they feel like they're part of it. Part of it how? Jasmine asked. By keeping the secret, Jessica said, nodding at Rachel. Then it's like they're sort of getting away with it too. It's our only hope. Our only hope? Jasmine smiled at her. Sounds like you're with us after all. Not really, said Jessica, folding her arms. In the cafeteria, Rachel sat with Missy and Rhonda. Rachel sat with Missy and Rhonda. Miranda Lundstrom, a girl from Miss Friedman's class, sat with them. Tell me, Miranda begged. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Swear you won't tell anybody till after school? Missy said. I swear, she said. Geez, Missy, what's the big deal? This is really serious, Missy said in a hushed voice. She ripped the wax paper off her sandwich as if she was unwrapping a fabulous gift. This is highly confidential, as in top secret. All right already, Miranda said in an exasperated voice. I swear on a stack of pictures of Rob Nelson. Oh, I like that word, exasperated voice. I'm going to reread that again and see if I can make my voice sound like Miranda would be sounding. All right already, Miranda said. So what do you think exasperated means? I swear I won't tell anyone.
It's like, really.
What do you think? Kelly?
Like she wants to know really bad, like really badly.
Yep.
So she's like, I really want to know. Please tell me. And she's
Yep.
begging her and swaying her.
I like that. Begging. It's a begging voice. She's tired of waiting. She's exasperated. That's better, Missy smiled. She wanted Miranda to beg. Rob Nelson was the cutest boy in 6th grade. She leaned forward and whispered, Mr. Fab's out today. Yeah, Miranda said. You mean out? Like absent? Gee, that is exciting. You've got no teacher. Who's your sub? That's the thing. We don't have one. We're running our own class today. Miranda gave Missy an incredulous look, like a shocked look, and glanced over at Rachel. Rachel nodded. What? Miranda hissed. She smacked her forehead. Remember, Missy said, you promised. What did she promise, Cole?
She promised that she wouldn't tell anybody.
Promise not to tell. Oh, what? Miranda sputtered. She couldn't get it out. How did you get away with that? Well, it started off as a normal day, Missy began. From the other side of the room, Rachel heard a snort of disbelief, a squeal of outrageous delight. that quickly got squelched. Looking around, Rachel could see dozens of kids in pairs, 3s and 4s, heads bent together, all talking intently. She closed her eyes, but even so, she could feel the story spreading through the cafeteria. Carried on thousands of whispered words, a fire burning up in a dry forest, jumping from table to table, little flames she could feel licking her insides. For the second time that day, she could feel the pressure of words in her chest, words that wanted to get out, but somehow could not come out. She chewed a bite of sandwich and swallowed it down. Well, I know I told you to focus on secondary characters today, but I think what's happening with Rachel right now is really important, and I don't want to overlook it. So that imagery that Ralph Waldo used was so powerful to me. I'm going to reread it, and I'm going to and I want you guys to really pay attention to the author's imagery and the author's message right here. I think it's pretty intense. So you can even close your eyes if you want to practice envisioning here. From the other side of the room, Rachel heard a snort of disbelief, a squeal of outrageous delight that quickly got squelched. Looking around, Rachel could see dozens of kids in pairs, 3s and 4s, heads bent together, all talking intently. She closed her eyes, but even so, she could feel the story spreading through the cafeteria. Carried on thousands of whispered words, a fire burning up in a dry forest, jumping from table to table. Little flames she could feel licking her insides. Wow. I can picture, like, in the cafeteria, the tables burning up and the flame, which is the secret, jumping from table to table until everybody knows it is like it's contagious. And with Rachel, for the second time that day, she could feel the pressure of words in her chest, words that wanted to get out, but somehow could not come out. She chewed a bite of sandwich and swallowed it down. Pretty intense. And this is at least the second time I've noticed that Rachel is trying to suppress her words, trying to keep them down. So what do you think about that? I want you to turn and talk to a partner about why you think she would be physically eating a sandwich, forcing her words to stay down. What do you think about that? Vernon, George, and Paul, make sure y'all can hear each other.
So
Ashton, why don't you join your polls?
she got talking.
Hi, are you going to join your three hands?
She doesn't want to talk. She's not talking. So she's like, and then it's spread like that. All the tables she just spreads all around, just jump to talk, the room spread around, trying
Make sure that both partners have gotten a chance to share. About 1 more minute.
Good job.
Okay, back to the front in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to talk about that. Don't let me forget, okay? What did you and your partner talk about? What did you think about Rachel during this scene?
That she just doesn't want to talk because she's too afraid everyone will ask her question about how come she wasn't talking the whole day, and she just doesn't want to answer. Okay?
They're everybody hear what Tia said? Who can build on what Tia said or paraphrase what Tia said? Jada?
She said that Rachel, she just doesn't want to talk because she thinks that if she starts talking, everyone's gonna ask her questions while she's not talking.
What do you think about that?
And that's true, but I also think something else. It was one of my partners was Jada and Elise, and what Jada said is she said that that
I'm not muted.
yeah.
Well, we thought that since in music class when she wanted to sing, she's still not talking, and she's like holding it all in, so like it's gonna affect her. She doesn't get what Tia said. She doesn't want to get that wet for questions.
Anybody else? Or?
Miss Whiteheart said that she's not talking because she was trying to keep her voice down and make sure she's not talking because she thinks that he might think that her Tommy and Meadows' death is like be her fault. She never talked to him, and she was just like, I don't want to be so upset.
So she thinks, I'm gonna say what you said, tell me if this is right. She thinks that Tommy Feather's death might be her fault because she never talked to him.
So she feels guilty. Because he wasn't really like her, she talked to him.
Okay, Jeremy?
I think that Rachel isn't talking because I'm thinking that she feels that since Tommy Feathers died, she can keep her emotions in by not talking and just expressing her by gestures and writing.
Did you hear that? What do you say? I'm asking you to repeat each other because I want to make sure you're really tuned in and listening. What did Jeremy say? Cole, you're right next to him. Did you hear Doran, Vernon? What did Jeremy say? Did you hear him, Doran?
Yes. But
So ask him to repeat.
can you please repeat?
I think that Rachel was keeping her emotions in since Tommy Feathers died because she's keeping all of her emotions in by not talking, but use she's communicating by gestures and writing instead of talking because she doesn't have to.
Can you repeat that? Or summarize it in your own words?
She doesn't want to talk because Tommy Feathers died.
So what did he say she was trying to keep inside?
Her emotions.
Her emotions, yeah. She's trying to keep her words down with her emotions.
Mr. Harmon,
What do you
please
think
call
about that?
7202.
Do you
Mr.
agree? Do
Harmon,
you disagree? Is there something
7202.
more you want to add to that idea? I've heard from a lot of these. I'm so happy that all of you guys are sharing, but I haven't heard from like Malcolm or Nathan or Kelly or Ashton or Cole in a while or Abby. I want to hear your voices. Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to keep reading, and I want you to keep that idea in your head, okay? You can tell that Ralph Fletcher is like really into writing by the way he writes, the way he gave you that really powerful imagery of the fire. Okay, 12:21 p.m., early dismissal. Early dismissal, I wonder if it's an early dismissal day. Bastian, there's so much left in the book though, I'd be surprised if it was early dismissal. Bastian gulped down lunch. There was a phone right outside the cafeteria. He jammed in the coin and punched the number to his house. I am sorry, a voice said. The number you have called has been disconnected. Please. He hung up the phone. Disconnected. All at once, it hit him. He was moving. Bastian walked down the hallway and out the front door of the school. Nobody tried to stop him. Nobody said, "Where do you think you're going, young man?" He couldn't believe how easy it was. The skies had grown heavy with clouds and the air smelled like rain. He had no idea where he was going and he did not care. His feet just kept moving forward and he walked. He walked past a young woman washing her car. She waved at him. He waved back. In the front yard, Bastian saw a little boy playing ball with a bulldog, Barkley. For the 100th time that day, he tried not to think about the puppy. But not thinking had turned out to be a lot harder than he'd ever imagined. He went past a Catholic school, Our Lady of Sorrows, and stopped to watch the kids playing soccer on the playground. They were all wearing uniforms, boys in slacks and white shirts, girls in identical tweed skirts and white blouses. A couple hundred kids, and he didn't know a single one of them. He knew that moving to Hawaii would feel exactly like this. No friends, hundreds of strange kids. Most of them would stay apart watching, checking him out from a distance. He would go through his own kind of quarantine. I think you guys talked about quarantine the last time I was here. What does quarantine mean again? What does it mean for someone or something to be in quarantine, Charles?
I mean, like they try to keep the disease from spreading and everyone gets sick.
It's when there's an attempt to keep a disease from spreading. And how do they do that?
Well, like,
Do you know, Vernon, how they keep the disease from, if a dog or a person is sick and they want to keep the disease from spreading, how do they do that? Do they let that person out into the
No.
world? So what do?
they just keep them in a big room.
Yeah?
It's called isolation.
Isolation. They're alone. Right, they're not exposed to the general
They
population.
have to check the entire thing for any diseases.
Yeah, so after a while, if they determine that there are no diseases, then that person or the animal can go out into the world. So, what Ralph Fletcher says about Bastian, he says he would go through his own kind of quarantine. Seems like there's more to this sentence than what's on the page. So what do you think Bastian means by going through his own kind of quarantine? I want you to just stop and think about that for a minute. If you had your journals, I would have you write about it. But just think in your head. I want everybody to have an answer. What does that mean, that Bastian would go through his own kind of quarantine? He would go through his own kind of isolation. What does that mean? I want everybody to have something in their head about that. I meant to have it in your journals.
Can you read
Go ahead.
the sentence?
Yeah, sure. I'll read that whole paragraph leading up to it, Jada. He went past a Catholic school, Our Lady of Sorrows, and stopped to watch the kids playing soccer. They were all wearing uniforms, boys in slacks and white shirts, girls in identical tweed skirts and white blouses. A couple hundred kids, and he didn't know a single one of them. He knew that moving to Hawaii would feel exactly like this. No friends, hundreds of strange kids. Most of them would stay apart, watching, checking him out from a distance. He would go through his own kind of quarantine. Looks like a lot of you have a lot to say about this. I want everybody's voice to get out in the open, so go ahead and turn and talk to your partner. Make sure both people get a chance to share.
So, like, you were just talking about that he's gonna get lower. Nobody's gonna know him. Everyone's gonna stay away from him because they don't know him. They're scared of him and stuff. So, like, you're going through. I like to do this. I was thinking he It will just be like, it's so all day. It's just like everybody else in the city, like, watching other people's not locked up parent, but we have like a like that's what he means, because he doesn't really know anybody here right now, like living now, so he's sort of in a it's just gonna be the exact same thing. He doesn't know anybody, he's trying to say it's like he's in his own little world, just so he can probably connect to his dog around him, doing a bunch of things. So like kind of pretty weird, nothing that he knows about. And then him in school with a bunch of kids that he doesn't even know.
What did you guys say?
Hey, I said the rules were yeah, you did it wrong. No, you just did it right. You did too. Nothing.
So is he going to be returning cut off? Okay, really good conversation, guys. Go ahead and turn your eyes and bodies back this way. So my question was, like, the author seems to be saying more on this page than just this little sentence. So sometimes we have to read into the author's words a little deeper. Girls, are you okay? So what did you talk about with your partners about the quarantine? Nathan, you haven't heard.
Well, me and Charles, talked about that. The national agreement, of course, the document that, like, people wouldn't really come near him because, like, no one really knew him, and,
I'm sorry, I'm not sure everybody's focused on you, Nathan. Let's make sure we're making eye contact with Nathan, he's the speaker. Girls, give yourself some space over there. Cole, this way. Can you start over, please?
so, but document by Master Agreement on quarantine meant that, he, like, no one would really come near him since no one knew him, and, kind of be like that for the first couple of weeks.
Anybody build on that, what Nathan said? Paul?
So what he was saying, like Bastion, it's sort of like where he is now. He's sort of alone, and he doesn't have many friends except for like Sean. And most kids don't really like him because he's mean to them. And then in Hawaii, it's gonna be pretty much the same thing. Most kids aren't gonna really know him, and so it's going to be like, what am I gonna do? It's like, I don't know anybody here, they don't know me, I'm all alone. So it's like he's like the puppy, it's all alone, just like the room.
Good deep thinking, guys. Jada?
My partner was Elisa and Jada, and Elise said that he might feel like an outsider. She said he might feel like an outsider, and he's alone because like he knows no one at school.
How's that like quarantine?
Because like he doesn't have any friends, and like no one's talking and go in the car and see if there's nobody. So we check.
Talk a little louder, guys, just so everybody can hear. What were you gonna say, Laura?
Like if me and my partner leave and then he's just gonna be alone with no friends to talk to, no one who will actually come towards him and say, hey, do you got a table at lunch? Or, hi, do you want to be friends for it? And we were also wondering if he was gonna build that wall. Like, if he's gonna build a wall between everybody else before they bully him.
Well, that actually goes into what we were going to talk a lot about and have a grand conversation about, was like what motivates or causes Bastion to act the way that he does. And you just made a really powerful statement, Laura. You said you're wondering, and I guess, Nina, were you wondering this as well, if he was going to go to his new school, and although he's not going to be put in quarantine, he's not going to be in a room where he's blocked off from the rest of the world, will he build a wall? And why did you guys hear why she said he might be building a wall? Not a real wall, but a metaphorical wall. Why would he do that? Laura gave some ideas about why he would do that. Did you hear, Abby, what she said? Why when somebody would be new to a place would they build up a wall around them? Talk a little louder. You're right on track. Make sure everybody can hear you.
He can perform.
Yeah.
Since he doesn't have any friends and no one really kind of like takes the church to invite him to sit with them or at lunch or anything, he's just like in his own world since he doesn't have any friends and his things anywhere in school, and he just likes.
Yes.
I think why there's like you say a wall, like to block people out, to like block things out, like out of his way, like block people.
Okay, I'm not going to call on people. If you have something to say, I want you to just say it.
What I think is more by Nathan and Paul, if you put them all together, it's like for the first couple of weeks, like no people will try to like not get too close to him, and when people do get the courage like to ask him what to do, he probably is already going to be like he's probably going to be already have a wall, because if he acts all nice and he moves again, he's going to miss his new friends, but if he bullies them, they're not going to really make friends, so he won't have the same feelings as if he has puppies. He won't be making them until. So if he builds his own wall and he bullies people, none of those feelings will come up.
Malcolm, are you tuned in?
If he feels the same way about his puppy, if he has someone else, he might not fall for the puppy. He even said that he would go visit him every day, and then he would say someone else invites him over from their house, maybe he'll bring it to him.
I'm so sorry I have to stop you because you're having a wonderful conversation. Isn't the secondary character, Bastion, like really interesting?
Yeah.
And aren't you starting to see some connections between Bastion and maybe ourselves or our friends or people we know?
Yeah.
Yeah, about how when people are new, they might try to build themselves a wall to protect them from getting bullied or hurt. Yeah, really powerful. I'm so sorry I have to stop you, but we've actually been talking and reading for like 40 minutes. Can you believe it?
40 minutes.
So really great job today. I am going to come back probably on Thursday, and we're going to talk some more about the characters in this book. So great job today. Here's what I'll tell you. If you have more to talk about it at lunch with your friends. Oh, yes, Jada. Did she leave? Where'd she go? Okay, quickly, Jada reminded us that I left someone really important off this list. Tommy Feathers. Oh my gosh. Super important.
And then there
Okay.
are two other people. Karen. Yeah, Karen. And
48 out of 55 minutes? Awesome. We're going to talk about that today when I come back this
we
afternoon.
had 27 on the board. Can you read more?
I saw Miss McLaughlin. Okay, it is math time, and I know we normally start on the carpet, but we've been there for a long time. So let's stand up and head out back to our desk and get out your homework from last night, those word problems.